Last time we were talking about the self. We raised the question as to who am I? Where do I come from? Why do I get born into this world? And how come that I had to go through, say, at the most 100 years of life experiences and then I have to pass away? What brought me here? To some people, these questions bother them and they could never get an answer for these questions. To some people, they don't really know about these questions. They don't care about these questions. What they care about is material acquisition. What they care about is just live the daily life, eating your breakfast, eating your lunch, going to work, going to school, come back, sleep, and go and repeat the same daily routines every day. And in between, looking for satisfaction of the senses, satisfaction of sensuality, and acquisition of wealth, fame, luxuries, you name them, and they find pleasure in doing that. As to regard the spiritual questions of all those that are just raised up, who care? I mean, what they care is just happiness. As long as I'm happy, what do I care? But we all know that happiness is impermanent. Maybe a day or 2 days, maybe a few minutes. But in the process of looking for this happiness, which you regard as happiness, define, quote unquote, as happiness, we don't even know if the definition of happiness is right or wrong. Even though you have this happiness, then you have to still go through a lot of sufferings. And do you realize these sufferings? Or do you realize the world is full of sufferings? Have you thought about those sufferings? Have you attempted to overcome these sufferings? Or have you attempted to find out why do we have to suffer? All these sometimes physical questions, sometimes metaphysical questions, we call it spiritual questions. Do we all address these things? Well, I think yes, if we address these things, we have to go to, what is this? Some philosophers or some psychologists call it the eight, or the ego, or the self. Do we have to analyze all this self? Remember, in meditation, there are two parts to it. One is samatha, and the other part is Vipassana. And if you're first-time calmers, you may not know about it, but it's worth repeating all the time. What is samatha? Samatha is the training in our concentration. We have to be in control of ourselves, and in order to control of ourselves, we have to be in control of our own mind. Now, in order to control your own mind, you need to have concentration, that you know your own mind, that you know how to put them into control. That's samatha. And that's one of the objectives of meditation, is to put our mind under your own control, in your destiny, your mind. As we just mentioned at the beginning, Lee mentioned that a thought in the mind is from words. Without words, you cannot think. You think you can think without words? So you got to have notions, you got to have symbols, you got to have language in your mind in order to think. So a thought is from words, and the words and thoughts becomes, when it slowly materializes, it becomes speech or action. You talk a thought, you talk it out, or you act it out, becomes volitional actions. So words and thoughts, they come together, and this thought produces energy, and if it produces energy, it becomes volitional speech or action. And if you repeat this speech and action all the time, it becomes habit, right? It becomes habit. You habituate it. And when it becomes habit, When you do it gradually all the time, it becomes your personality. It becomes what we call the character. It becomes what we call your temperament. That's what it is. And when it becomes your personality, then it becomes your destiny. Why would a personality become a destiny? Because all these things create energy. Your personality of honesty, your personality of compassion, your personality of selfishness, your personality of creating anger, violence, your personality of depressive attitude, your depression of hilarity, whatever you want to name it. All these things bring energy. And this energy that you bring forward would breed to your destiny, or would create your destiny. So don't blame anybody for you have encountered so far. What is the Buddha's teaching? The Buddha starts with analyzing self, your own self. When you are sleeping, your eyes don't see, your nose don't smell, your ears don't listen, your tongue don't taste, your body don't touch. But then you still have the brain, the mentality. You know what you did, what you did when you were dreaming? Your mentality went back to the past. Your mentality worried for the future. Your mentality gets into a dream. Your mind is non-stop even though you are sleeping. 24 hours non-stop. Like running your memory, your disk, your computer. Your keyboard, because you're not there, stops already. You don't put your fingers on your keyboard, but your memory, your disk is still running and running and running and running. Why? Because you got all the energy in there, stored in there. So don't you know? Samatha is to first of all put your mind under your control. That's what you're doing. You have chosen on a Saturday morning to come to the temple to attend a lecture, to attend meditation in the lecture of self. I think you've taken the right choice. To some people, taking the right choice. So some people, the choice is driven. Why? Saturday morning, it's raining, nowhere else better to go. Why don't come to a temple? That's your second choice. Some people, it's the first choice. Some people go partying, sleep in for 2 hours, a couple of hours, dreaming. You've taken the right choice, and hopefully you always will take the right choice in everything you're doing. So you've taken the choice to understand yourself, to understand your own mind, and to practice putting your monkeying mind under your control. Now that is samatha. I haven't talked about Vipassana as yet. So don't you want to put your mind under control? You have. Now what is this Vipassana? Just to briefly talk about it, because we can talk for days if we elaborate. Vipassana is what? Vipassana is to put insight into your concentration. Concentration is just, some people will call it boring. You're sitting there doing nothing, you're concentrating on an object of breath. Isn't that boring? It is boring to you if you don't understand. It is boring to you if you don't have Vipassana. What is Vipassana? Vipassana is putting your wisdom into the concentration. It's just like when you use a lens. You want to lit up a fire. If you just put the lens out and the sun shines onto the fire, you focused it, a fire would be focused and come out. What do you use your fire? A Vipassana is to focus and put that focus onto your wisdom to explore the spirituality of life. Don't you have to gear your focus to something more meaningful? Putting your wisdom in the concentration. And when you put your wisdom in that concentration, what comes out? You are walking the Buddha's path. You explore more into life. You'll be more intelligent to start with. Intelligence is just a temporal aspect of wisdom. You will go beyond the temporal aspect, beyond superficial wisdom. You go into the saintly wisdom. With that wisdom, you explore into the mystic. You explore into something that you've never dreamed of, you'll never know. And that's Buddhahood. That's Nirvana. That is Anuttara Samya Sambuddhi. That is something difficult to explain. And for the purpose of thinking, we'll put in words for the thinking. We call it Buddha nature. We call it Tathagata. We call it Samya Sambuddhi. And we simply, in simple English, we call it wisdom. Because we have to have a word to think about it. And the Buddha said that's wisdom. But the Buddha said, only when you realize the supreme wisdom will you be able to realize the true wisdom. And at that level, you don't fall into the trap of thinking erroneously anymore. There's no words in it. Because you're beyond words. As Bunny said, we always like to repeat, right? So that we can put more and more into our Vipassana meditation. Because you need to contemplate on it. So you need to think about this all the time, not just the one-time deal. If you're coming here and you think, I learned it already, it's the 3 A's of meditation. The first A stands for body, the second A stands for breath, and the third A stands for mind. And all these things is on paper. I paste it onto the wall and I faced it. I don't have to come anymore. That's not right. You, what is you? We said, okay, you interact to circumstances, you interact with your family, you interact with each other. And when you react, what do you react with? Your body. You react with your body and mind. But let's talk about the body first. Your body has, first of all, on the front end, on your keyboard end, if you use a computer and as an analogy, the whole set of these computer systems, what do you use at the front end? Your keyboards, your fingers. These are your front end reaction. We haven't talked about the programming, we haven't talked about the memory chips, we haven't talked about the hardware and the software. We just say, those are the keyboards. What are your keyboards? Your eyes react to what? Material. React to anything that you see. The molecules, whatever. And in the process of reacting, eye consciousness is created in you. You know that. Not just reaction. Reaction itself, reaction without consciousness is not the true reaction. Reaction without consciousness is not reaction. It is reaction, but it's not in the right sense reaction. Certain consciousness is created. And then you also have the ears react to sound, the nose react to smell, you have nose consciousness, and then your tongue react to taste, and you have taste consciousness, and your body react to tactility, sense of touch. These are the hardware. These are your hardware, my hardware. We make up software too. What is this software? The mind. Biologically, we call it the brain. The brain reacts to what? To everything. The brain reacts to the past, the present, and the future, react to material, sound, smell, taste, tactility. So in other words, that mind is the software. Without your software, can your body work? Can the computer work? So if I use a computer as an analogy, you know it. We're nothing but a computer, a lively computer, an animated computer. So that's your mind. You react to everything, that's the mind of consciousness. So fine, a psychologist will know all these things. I don't have to study the Buddhist teaching to know all these things. In psychology, we study all this. If you take a psychology course at UBC, Simon Fraser, you know how they start with? They don't start with this basic to you. They just tell you to study Freud, to study Descartes, to study Thomas Hobbes. They just give you the books and you study them, and you flip to the first page, you turn to the last page, and you find out, what is he talking about? Because you don't know all the basics. You don't know what is id, what is identity, what is ego, what is superego. You don't know, because they don't start with the basics. The Buddha start with these basics. It's very important that you know all these basics before you touch onto psychology. I is a combination of what? Of hardware and software. It's body and mind. The body would include eyes, ears, nose. In other words, the hardware will include the keyboards already. Forget about the software for now, just this body. When we look at the body, how do we look at the body? When we look at ourselves, then of course we know our body. But somehow, when you look at yourself, whether or not you yourself is clad with clothes, or you yourself is naked, you won't be looking at yourself with sensuality. Because you are yourself. You're very close to yourself, your own body. You only look at your body somehow biologically, or somehow you get used to it. When you look at your body, you won't arouse that sense of sensuality in you. You won't induce that thought to think about man, woman, sexual desire. You won't do that. But when you look at other bodies, it's a different attitude. When you look at other bodies, this sense of sensuality comes out in you that induces you to have that sexual drive. And when you have that instigate your body inside to produce certain hormones, and then that hormone will instigate certain organ in you to react. And when you react, you will do something volitionally. If you can control yourself, you do it slowly. You find ways to release that, what you call pressure, or pleasure, is more or less the same thing. In the process of trying to satisfy your senses, the satisfaction, you may create a lot of energy. You may go to prostitution house. If you're a criminal inclined person, you may do raping, you may do all kinds of things. But somehow, you always have that sensuality desires in you. And the Buddha told us, when you look at the body, if you have that kind of desire, you already stop your way to sainthood. Because to instigate the present karmic energy in you to arouse that desire, you also instigate or stimulate the seeds that you've been accumulating, that sensuality desire in you, and you will commit to satisfy that desire. When a man looks at a beautiful woman, or when a woman looks at a handsome man, they all have different attitudes and different desires in their mind. So the Buddha teaches a method to overcome this desire. And of course, as an introduction, which I forgot to tell you, or which I haven't told you, why I haven't told you, because that introduction requires a little time to explain. But this kind of desire in you stops you to the sainthood. That's the first requirement to get to sainthood. If you have that sensuality desire, you can never get to the sainthood. You have to curb that desire, eliminate the desire. So that's the reason why the Buddha spent quite some time in helping us to analyze it. Now, how do we analyze this? Let's get a little bit more detail. Some people may not understand. So the Buddha called it Asupa Bhavana, which is Vipassana of impurities, to contemplate on impurities. And what is this body made up of in the first place? The Buddha identified 32 parts of the body. When you look at the body, other body, a sensuality desire aroused in you, you have to understand what that body is made up of, in fact, in reality. Not in your quote-unquote karmic contemplation about that body, because you're influenced by your own karma to look at that body. Can you look at things as they truly appeared? We don't look at things as they truly appear. We look at things as they seem to appear, or as it appeared in your mind. Why don't we look at a body as they actually is, as they actually are? What is a body? This is the body. We have the hair, the bodily hair, the nails, the teeth, the skin, the flesh, veins, bone structure, liquid in bone, kidneys, heart, liver, bladder, spleen, lungs, intestine, small and large, stomach, feces, brain, gall, bladder, phlegm, pus, blood, sweat, blubber, tears, synovia, spit, mucus, marrow, urine. Generally speaking, we have the 32 parts of the body. That's the body biologically as they appear to be. But when you look at the body that arouses sensuality in you, you don't have that factual information. You look at what you call the beauty of it. And you look at the makeup of the cosmetics. You look at the hairdo. You smell the perfume. And you may erroneously look at the fictitious things of the body, the artificial stuff of the body. If that body has gone through plastic surgery, then you look at things that you may not be. You may be looking at some of the materials, but that's the true factual parts of the body. Now, when we have that body, we identified it. The Buddha go ahead and say, Vipassana meditation. We talk about samatha and vipassana. Vipassana is to induce insight into meditation, insightful meditation about our body. When you have insight into that body, that would curb your sensual desire and bring you a step forward to enlightenment. And how do we do it? We call it azubha bhavana, contemplation of impurities. I got it from a sutra. An approach of visualizing the removal of body parts, one at a time, will be used for this meditation. While using words to help with the visualization, remove the head hair and put it in front of you. This is in line with the Lord Buddha's instructions in the Kayagata Sati Sutta. Now that's a quotation I got from the sutta. Herein, bhikshus means monks and friends. The bhikshus contemplate the body from the soles of the feet upwards. So when they're meditating, they're using vipassana to get an insight of a body. This is one of the many vipassana approach. So analyze it from the sole, from the bottom of the feet upwards to the head, and from the top of the hair downwards. This filthy frame with skin stretched over it, which is filled with many impurities, consists of head hairs, body hairs, nails, teeth, etc., and urine, lastly, just as if a man with good sight would examine a sack with openings at both ends, filled with various kinds of grain, paddy, beans, sesame. One opening, it would recognize its content thus: this is paddy, this is beans, that is sesame, this is husked rice. Exactly so does the bhikshu investigate this body. It's just like when you put all the different beans and rice in a sack, you analyze every grain in the sack. This is how you analyze this body, investigate this body. Yeah?
Or this is somebody else's body, or
it can be both. Whatever is convenient to you. You think that you always attaches to your body, then you investigate your own body. If you can investigate other bodies too. So this is what we call azubha bhavana. This is one of the many vipassana meditation that we use to gear our mind to wisdom, to gear our mind towards contemplation of the reality and not of fictitious reality. And then you can say the following words out loud or in your mind with your thoughts to help concentrate on and to contemplate the foulness of the body while visualizing it in your mind. You start with the head, start with meditation, and you start to repeat to yourself. You whisper to yourself, or you just simply sound it to yourself. Remove the head hair and put it in front of you. Remove the facial hair and body hair from the neck and put it in front of you. Remove the skin, sweat, and pus on your face, head, and neck and put it in front of you. Remove the facial fat, neck fat, and tallow and put it in front of you. Remove the flesh and sinews from the face, head, and neck and put it in front of you. Take the flesh and squeeze it out of the blood and limbs and put it in front of you. Remove the eyes and tears and put it in front of you. Remove the nose, snot, and phlegm and put it in front of you. Remove your teeth, your tongue, your spittle, and put it in front of you. If you do all that, and you get into the last sentence, these things are disgusting to look at, let alone go near or touch. They have a disgusting smell. Even if they are left here for a day, they will begin to decay, fester, and rot. They are subject to change, aging, decay, disease, death, and cause much suffering when clung to and thought as me, myself, or I, mine, or as belonging to me. They are impermanent, causing much suffering when clung to, are not within my control and therefore cannot be considered as myself, as me, as self, as mine, as belonging to me. This is the reality of the body, which I did not see. Now, I see it now. So, Vipassana teaches you to see things as they actually in reality. You don't see the cosmetics. You don't smell the perfume. You don't see the hairdo. You don't see the makeup. You don't see the clothes, the fashion. You see the reality of the body. So this is how you do this Vipassana. You keep on training yourself Vipassana, and then that would curb your sensuality desire. At this point, I remember back in Hong Kong, I started to talk about these. And there's one question is, from a beginner, he said, sexuality is so satisfactory. Why do I have to control it? Why do I have to eliminate it? It's good. It's good for me. Well, to that kind of newcomers, we really have to go through another session. This is a little higher level. We have to go through another session of what is happiness derived, what is pleasure derived from sexual conduct. What is pleasure and happiness derived from sexual misconduct? What is this feeling? We really have to spend hours to talk about this if you don't see that point. So this is for a little higher level where you know that you don't need that. Some people say we need it. If we don't have this, how can we reproduce? Population will stop. There will be no people on earth. I said, yes, everybody will be a saint. You'll be a Buddha. You don't need anybody on earth. What are people on earth anyway? People on earth, they're waging war against each other. They're killing animals for food. They're having jealousy, hatred, violence, you name them. They're having all these inequalities. There are all these things that we shouldn't have. That's the second higher level. So this, people ask me what is Vipassana. Now I introduce it to you. That is, after you control your mind, after you know that your mind under control, your monkey stands still, then you go into Vipassana. Put more insight, wisdom into the world, into every aspect of world, into impermanence, into the mind, into the body, into everything, and see everything in reality and not everything in appearance. We're cheated by appearance and we lose the reality. If you see everything in reality, you're seeking the truth. If you're being cheated by a fictitious reality, you're confused. You always go through suffering because you don't see things as they are. The Buddha slowly gets us to see things as they are.